evening, everyone. As you can see, I'm not actually hosting tonight because I'm currently in a car going back home. But obviously, I've had to send the gang live. So I'm just quickly going to say hello, and I'm going to leave you in the very, very capable hands of Tyler tonight. Have a good show, guys. And I will see you all on Wednesday.
Thank you very much for that, Emma. And yes, good evening. Welcome to the Charlton Chronicles, the first one under Tyler's command, which sounds very daunting. I've never done it before, considering I've been on YouTube for God knows how long, but what's the worst that could happen? And looking forward to this one. Of course, we'll be discussing the Leicester game that happened yesterday. Obviously, a narrow defeat, 1-0 defeat. And we, of course, after this, a very lengthy debate about the Leicester game, because there's a lot to talk about from that game, we will then quickly touch upon the Cambridge game, the Carabao Cup second round tie on Tuesday. As you can see, I'm joined with the usual crew. I've got Paul, Stephen, Sid, and Tom with me tonight to discuss everything at Charlton. So starting with Paul, how are you doing tonight, mate?
Yeah, I'm great, actually, Tyler. Obviously, lots of positives to take from yesterday we'll talk about. Also, it might be because I'm sort of fueled by a certain beverage that I couldn't get at the Valley for the Watford game. For those listening, it's Cornish Orchard cider from Sainsbury's in Crayford. Obviously, there are other cider producers and other supermarkets, but there you go. So, no, really looking forward to tonight. As I say, buzzing from yesterday, really, apart from the result.
Yeah, of course, we'll get into that, but it was still an enjoyable day down the Valley, that is for sure. Stephen, Sid, how are you guys doing down there?
Very well, thanks. Quite like some of what Paul's got, I must say. That looks very nice, mate. Hope you're enjoying that. Yeah, positive after yesterday. Not the result we wanted, but certainly the performance I think that we all wanted. But yeah, all positive.
Sid, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Nice. And finally, Tom, last but not least, how you doing, mate?
I'm all good. Obviously, as everyone said yesterday, wasn't the greatest result, but we can take a lot of positives from it. And hopefully we can bounce back.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I just said there, the structure for tonight is going to be no different to what you would see on an Emma show. She will obviously be back hopefully for the Wednesday show. But as I said, we're just going to talk about the Leicester game, talk about a lot of different topics. As I said, it was a very entertaining game and a lot of things to dissect. And then we'll briefly touch upon the Cambridge game. I can't get the chats up on the screen, unfortunately. So I've enlisted the help of Tom, who will be reading the chats as it goes. Whenever someone says anything of an interesting point to bring up, then feel free to do so. Keep the conversation going in the chat and we will discuss all the points you have to make. So, Tom, let's kick us off with a few hellos in the chat.
Yeah, so Jack was in first saying hello. Tracy's there. Lionel's there. Glennie's boy there. Ian's there, Charlton fan. Tommy Early. Kira's in there. There's 4 Toms in there as well, all saying hello. Tom says the team needs to keep believing, which they do. And then Sophie says evening as well. Lovely to see Tyler hosting tonight.
Very kind. What will hopefully be a one-off appearance, but we'll see how it goes. I can't imagine it going too disastrously, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, we'll just dive straight into it. We'll go into the Leicester game, of course. As I said, a narrow 1-0 defeat, our first defeat of the Championship season and our first defeat at the Valley, I think, since the Crawley game in December in terms of league. So that is quite an impressive record. If I'm giving my thoughts on the game, I feel very proud, to be honest, of that team. I'm very, very proud, considering that, to be honest, we were better than a team that just got relegated from the Premier League. I think we really held our own. To be honest, I think we deserved at least a point from the game, maybe to win it, to be honest. 20 shots on goal compared to their 6. I mean, it speaks volumes, the fact that Leicester's goalkeeper was the man of the match, considering the amount of shots that we pelted at them. We really kept it going. And, as I said, it was a very good performance. But ultimately, it was one brilliant piece of quality from Fatawu for the goal to make it 1-0 to Leicester. So, Tom, I think I'll kick things off with you tonight. We'll go in reverse order. Just get your general thoughts on the game. How do you think we played, the atmosphere, and overall thoughts on the match against Leicester yesterday?
I mean, my overall thoughts, going into the game, I think I said a draw, and I'd been happy with that anyway. After the game, after the games happened, we were very, very unlucky not to win the game. It's as simple as that. But as you say, it took one moment of magic, and Fatu, we all know what he's like. He's probably going to be in the Prem in a few weeks' time, more than likely. He's one hell of a player. Josh Edwards did well against him for most of the game, but it was that one kind of moment where he just kind of cut in, shot, and it went. I mean, you can't get much more into the top corner, really. Overall, I thought we played very, very well. We was in the game for 90 minutes. that's one thing I can take from that, because I mean, let's say, I mean, even that Crawley game last year, we weren't in the game at all, and now we're in a game for 90 minutes against a team who's just come down. I mean, a team who's won the Prem as well. But yeah, I mean, we didn't look out of place at all, and yeah, I think the team should hold their head high. But my only thing is how do we bounce back, and what do we do against QPR? That's my only thing from the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. As I said, as you said, they're completely in the game from minute dot, really. And we were very unlucky to not find the back of the net. As I said, 20 shots. I mean, some of the shots we had in that game was absolutely ridiculous and how they didn't go in. But full credit to Leicester, very good, solid defensively, and they know how to win a free kick, that's for sure, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a little bit. But yeah, as I said, they're very proud. And ultimately, it was a Premier League standard player who won the game. Stephen Sid, coming to you guys next. I wanted to generally talk about the atmosphere, because I felt up in the covered end, the atmosphere was just blaring from minute dot, really. And even when we conceded, the crowd were just completely on Charlton's side. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on the crowd and the overall match day experience as well, because as we know from the Watford game, there was a lot of negatives to take on in terms of the catering and the drinks and the bars and such. So I wanted to get your thoughts in terms of whether you saw an improvement of that and in also the atmosphere at the Valley yesterday.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, Tom. Sorry, forgotten names all of a sudden. Yeah, excuse me. Had a senior moment there. I think we've got a team now that everyone's bought into. Everyone backs. We're all behind the team. We're all behind Nathan, and I think you can feel it in the ground. It's almost palpable now. We have a little setback. The goal went in yesterday, but the crowd immediately got up to back the boys again. And I don't think we've seen that for a while at the Valley, especially in the amount and the noise that we've got at the moment. Tom mentioned the Crawley game there. That was a night to forget. But these games at the moment just feel like we're at one with the team, we're at one with the manager, and I think he's feeling that as well. Nathan Jones, the way he speaks, but yeah, it was a brilliant atmosphere from minute one to the end yesterday, and rightly so that the guys got applauded off the pitch.
Yeah, I thought that was lovely to see. The fact that all the crowd and that they stood behind and chanting the team, and Jones obviously getting the plaudits that deserves as well, and getting the team over to clap them off. I thought that was amazing, and it showed the unity is there with the fans and the club, which is something we haven't had for years. Sid, do you agree with that? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just thought it was a very unexpected loss, to be honest, because we played so well the whole game, and I thought that we were definitely the better team, but we just didn't take our chances, like Tyrese's header and Connor Coventry's shot. We just didn't take our chances, but was definitely expecting a win from that, but it was just very unfortunate for us.
Yeah, we were very unlucky, but you can't say it's not down to a lack of effort, that's for sure. As I said, we were there from minute dot, giving them hell, really pushing forward. But ultimately, it was one goal that undone us, and that's going to happen in the Championship against teams like that. That is going to happen ultimately when you don't take your chances. That's what's going to happen. Paul, coming to you, obviously quite a controversial talking point from the game, and I've said this at the safeties one for you. We do have to talk about the referee. I think he was. I think it was probably the most inconsistent performance I've seen from a referee, and that's probably putting it lightly. Now, in his defence, I think the fouls that he did give were fouls. Obviously, we had the disallowed goal for Jones's header. I think Edwards is dragging the defender down. I think you cannot I know the Leicester player's gone to ground quite easily, but you can't put your arm around an attacker and expect to not, have repercussions from that. I felt that, Leicester were very tactical. They know how to win free kicks, that's for sure. But they were fouls, but they were incredibly soft ones. But what I saw from the Charlton perspective, though, the same thing were happening to us, and they weren't being given. So that was what done it for me, really. So I wanted to get your thoughts and be as kind as you possibly can, but in some of the words, if it is possible, about the referee's display yesterday.
Yeah, I think, as you say, obviously we'll both defend Josh to the hill, of course. But if you're going to put your hands on a defender, an attacker in your own penalty area, then it's going to be an issue, isn't it? Really? In their penalty area. But you're right. I mean, if he's going to give soft fouls, then give them to both teams. Don't give them exclusively to Leicester. And I did think, there were times where we were putting our hands on the back of players, and it was like, oh no, he's going to blow, and of course he did blow. And it's just so frustrating, as you say. We want consistency. Either they're as bad to each team, or they're giving everything to both teams, and there was that inconsistency. And he was sort of the opposite of a homer, wasn't he? Really, I think he was at times quite weak. But yeah, that's I thought that 12th man was just exclusive to cricket, really. But it's just, as I say, we're going to have to deal with that. Sort of those dark arts. We thought that coming up from League One, that the refereeing would be slightly better, or a lot better. And from what we've seen, probably about the same, really. The refs have got a difficult job, but I mean, if you're going to make it, difficult on yourself, then you're going to have to expect the boost from the crowd. And I think, they got plenty of abuse from the covered end going off, and that's, I think that's fair. I think if the ref's not going to give it, then he needs to be helped out by his assistants. And I consistently see assistants who seem almost in awe of the ref. They don't want to give decisions, and they feel they're sort of undermining the ref. But I think, as the phrase goes, say it as you see it. And sometimes I just don't think they did. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just so frustrating. You expect that sort of treatment away, don't you? Really, not at home. Home advantage obviously wasn't the case yesterday. So yeah, it's frustrating. Tyler, with only 3 games in, I'm sure we can look forward, if that's the right phrase, to similar refereeing as we go on. But we have to make sure that we play and our performance, sort of supersedes all of that, and that we actually win. In spite of the referee rather than because of him. So, as I say, frustrating, but it's no surprise, is it really? We're just going to have to grit our teeth, I think, sort of big time as the season goes along.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's to be expected, really, with VFL officiating. It's pretty poor in every sort of division, but that's going to happen in certain games. You're going to get a good one. Sometimes you get a bad one if there even are good referees in the EFL. I have no idea. But yeah, that was just one of them days, really. It was quite disappointing. I think it was... probably less so a factor in terms of us losing the game, because ultimately we didn't finish our dinner with the chances we created, and Leicester did. But I think, the inconsistency was something that really wound a lot of the fans up, and it was no surprise to see the ref get a jeer from the covered end as he went off, and probably justifiably so. Tom, do we have any interesting thoughts in the chat on anything there, or any comments to...
Not really. I mean, Tommy said that we just need to forget the result, keep the same level, and get behind the lads. Because I do think some people forget we've come up from League One when we're not expected to blow the league away. Our aim this year is to just kind of stay up or be like above that area sort of out. But yeah, other than that, people were saying the catering was spot on, which it was yesterday. To be fair, the North Lower was actually a lot better. It was a lot more organised. Pints were poured already. Food was hot. It was perfect. It was a great atmosphere. Great to see such a quick response from the concourse. Yeah, it's mainly just about the crowd, to be fair, and atmosphere around the ground.
Yeah, it did seem a lot better than the Watford game in terms of organisation and the catering and that. And I think I remember seeing something about they've hired like 70 odd new staff to come in, so they were certainly prepared from it, and they'd listened to the criticism, which was good to see. And it was a really enjoyable day as well. All the atmosphere and that, and building up, and the improvements were good to see as well. The club have clearly listened, and hopefully that carries on for the rest of the season. Guys, make sure, of course, keep the conversations going in the chat, and Tom will flag me up if anyone ever does say anything, and we can keep the conversation going there. So I want to now move on to picking out a few individual performances, because there were a few standout ones and ones that definitely make for interesting topics. So Tom, coming back to you, I think one player that stood out for me, one player that I think for me dramatically improved from the opening 2 games, Greg Docherty. I felt he was a lot more noticeable against Leicester and really got himself about as our captain. He got stuck in, good tackles, had a few shots on goal, was attacking. And I think I don't think he's been as bad as what some people make him out to be. I said it on the last stream. I felt it was generally just the team. Some players were taking the step up when they've come to the Championship, and Docherty's been a little bit left behind, and he's not been as noticeable. So I found myself analysing him a lot more against Leicester, but mainly because I hadn't really paid. Admittedly, I hadn't paid too much attention to him coming into the game because he wasn't as noticeable compared to some other performers. But he really stood out to me against Leicester, and a really good performance, and he showed why he will be an important player for us in midfield, in my opinion. So I wanted your take on Doc, and how big of an improvement did you see from him against Leicester?
I saw a massive improvement. I mean, as you say, I don't think he was as bad as people were saying he was. It's just people have kind of stepped up. We've brought players in who are ready for this level, and he's kind of more, I guess, the experienced body in that midfield, which I guess we do kind of need as well. And people forget him and Coventry were a partnership in that midfield, pretty much. that whole run in League One last year. And he also did start quite slow last season as well, which quite a few players did. So I just feel like people need to be a bit patient. I know obviously the Championship is very different to League One, but I thought he was great, and I do now think he realizes, okay, look, there is competition behind me, because Nibs is getting fitter, and once he's fitter, I think he'll go into the 10 or something like that, and then because Carey can play in Doc's position as well, so I think he's thinking, okay, I need to step up a bit more here. But I thought he did well. His pressing yesterday was unbelievable for me. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it was a proper captain's thing for him, I think, in my opinion. And I think he just needs to kind of get that confidence, I guess, back, and kind of be the Doc that we saw the second half of last season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw there, as you said, in the second half of the season, it took a little bit of time for him to grow in when he first signed for Charlton in League One. And then suddenly, around about December time, he just picked it up and he was just playing really well. And we know what he can do. And I think we saw that yesterday. And hopefully he's going to be able to keep that up, because I do think there is a good player there. And he's got Championship experience. He's played at this level before. So I think that there is definitely an opportunity there for him to, take it by the scruff of the horns and put in a performance like that. And he did that against Leicester, and hopefully he can keep that up. You mentioned Coventry. That's exactly who I'm going to give to Stephen Sid, because I felt personally he was our man of the match. I thought he was outstanding in the midfield again, completely controlled that midfield. Very unlucky not to score. I think that strike, where has that strike been? Since he's come to the club, we've not seen him hit a shot like that ever. Where has that been? It's just an absolutely unbelievable strike. Stalashev has pulled off an unreal save. Absolutely unbelievable. So wanted to get your guys' take on Coventry. How good was he yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he was really good, to be fair. And again, his shot, he's always kind of on the edge of the box, but he never shoots. So I was happy that he actually shot yesterday. And I don't know how the keeper saved it, because you watch it back, it was realistically just on the top of his fingertips that he saved it on. But I mean, it was a great shot, and his defending and tracking back was really good. And he did get a bit feisty with one of the players, which was quite funny to see. Turning around, told him to do one. So yeah, that was quite funny to see, but he was really good.
Yeah, that's the commentary I think we've all known and loved to see for this season as well. Sorry, I don't know if he was going to cut you off there, Steve, but yeah, I was just
I was going to say, Tyler, I thought the whole of the midfield functioned really well as a unit yesterday. You quite rightly gave Doc the sort of comments that he deserved on his performance yesterday. Coventry was outstanding, and rightly so, our man of the match in my opinion. But yeah, I thought they linked up with Carey brilliantly, to be fair. I thought that's probably one of the most solid midfields I've seen performances from three individual players playing as a team than I've seen for a long time. They were outstanding yesterday, the boys. Yeah, you're spot on there. Sonny Carey as well. I mean, he's really made a staple for himself in that team as well. I don't think many people would have expected him to be a starter when he came in, and he's really doing really well to keep Harvey Nibs out of the team at the moment. And I think, as you said there, that midfield is just gelling so well at the moment. It's playing like a real unit, and I'm really excited by what that can do. And obviously, as we've mentioned, Doherty, I felt he deserved to get that plaudits yesterday, and he wasn't as noticeable compared to Carey and Coventry, but I think he really stood out amongst that three yesterday, and I think that's definitely a sign of things to come. Paul, coming to you, and I think you'll be liking this player I'm going to be talking to you next. It is, of course, our favourite Josh Edwards, because he was, I think, a topic of discussion among a lot of people in the Oak after the game when I was there with Josh, funny enough, and we were discussing his performance. And I think after a few beers, I don't think we was too kind about his performance, and then there was another people who were in front of us saying that he was their man of the match. So it was sort of one extreme or the other when it came to Edwards. Now, with a clearer head, I think he had a very hard time against the Premier League winger. Fatawu, I think, had him on skates in the first half, to be honest. He beat him at almost every opportunity. I think Edwards did grow into the game in the second half, and he was the Edwards that we saw against Watford and earlier in the season, so far this season, gritting in those crunching challenges and doing really well defensively. However, before that, he did get beat again on that left side, and it was ultimately him who Fatawu beat to score the goal. So Edwards was a very interesting topic of debate amongst myself and some other people that I knew at the Oak. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Edwards' performance, how you think he coped against Fatawu, and overall his performance. Do you think he had a good game or a bad game or somewhere in between?
I think he had a decent game. As you say, he wasn't taken to the cleaners quite by Fatawu, but it's all levels, isn't it? I mean, you've all just talked about Doc and how he's actually grown into the league, if you like. And Josh, this is a new experience for Josh. He came from, I think, basically the Scottish second division, stepped up a gear to go into League One, played exemplary for most of last season when he wasn't injured by our ex-player. And he's just adjusting. He had two really good games in league games. And again, it's we're, as we've said, we're dealing with a team, whatever the internal strife and issues with fans. Leicester have just come down from the Premier League. They've still got Premier League players. We could talk about Vestergaard at some point. These guys were incredibly easy on the ball. They seem to have extra time, which comes when you've got that extra ability. And as I say, if Josh had been against anyone else, but who he was up against, then as I say, he probably would have again got a sort of 7, 8 out of 10. Yeah, he was caught out by the goal. I mean, it's as you say, a fantastic goal. Kaminsky had no chance whatsoever, and in fact, he will be, I'm sure, a Premier League player in the next week or so. So Joshua will learn from that. It's been quite a harsh lesson. It's been a welcome to the league for him. But other than that, I think with Josh, that you're going to get proverbially 110%. He's always going to be there. He's going to try and harry. If he can't tackle cleanly, he'll just harry. He'll be there. At least making a nuisance of himself. Trying to distract the attackers. So yeah, he had a bit of a lesson yesterday. But as I say, let's see, who was he up against? An exceptional player. So as I say, I wouldn't judge him too harshly. I mean, again, we'll talk about other players. We'll talk about, I'm sure, TC at some point. Some of our fans do have their sort of bar of expectation absurdly high at times, particularly after a few pints in the oak, with respect. So yeah, I think, as I say, overall, okay, maybe 6.5 for Josh. But I think other than the goal, he struggled, he struggled manfully, I guess. But as you said, he started to grow into the game, and that's what it's all about. It's adaptation, isn't it? They're coming up against levels that he will never have seen before. But he's met every single challenge that's been posed to him, and I'm sure he will. As I say, he'll learn from that goal. He'll learn that you can't stand off some of these really top players. Give him an inch, they'll take the proverbial mile. And as I say, that will be a great learning experience for him. He'll be probably very hard on himself. But he'll learn. I'm sure the manager was not hard on him at all afterwards. He knows what a player Josh is. So as I say, it was not the greatest day at the office, but I think he still acquitted himself well. So.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think it was really just a lesson for him. A very tough lesson against a very higher level of opponent that he's not really been used to so far. So I think he will, as you say, he will learn from that. He will gain that experience. And we know full well that Josh gives 110%, and he does play at a very high level, as we saw from last year. His level of performance has been excellent since he's come to the club, really. So as you say there, spot on. I think he'll learn from that. I don't think it was, it wasn't his best performance by any means, but he wasn't poor by any stretch of the imagination either. He definitely got himself stuck out, especially in the second half. But yeah, he'll learn from that, and that should be good to put him in good standing for the next few games of the season. Moving on to the sort of general of the team going into it, I think that we haven't really touched upon Thomas Kaminsky and the goalkeeper much this season, and it is quite difficult to talk about him because he hasn't had much to do the first 3 games besides facing that shot, and obviously he was well beaten. I don't think any keeper, to be honest, would have struggled to save that shot. But Tom, I wanted to get your thoughts on Kaminsky. I know it is quite difficult because he hasn't exactly had much to do. I don't think he's actually had to make a proper save besides the free kick that Watford had that was straight down his head. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Kaminsky in terms of, do you think he's been a good addition to the team? What have you noticed from him in games? I know it's quite difficult because he hasn't had much to do. But do you think he's been, a solid addition that we've needed in between the sticks as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think he made one a decent save against Bristol City or something, I think it was. But yeah, other than that, he's not really had much to do. I think his distribution with the ball is unbelievable, by the way, as well. It's definitely one thing we've needed as a keeper, because Ash and Mannion, both of them, it isn't the greatest for them. He is a good shot stopper. He does command his areas, which I have noticed, because I think some Luton fans were kind of saying, "Oh yeah, he's not that type of keeper," but he is. But I've noticed he talks to players individually. He says, "Okay, you do this, well done," and all this stuff. He doesn't talk to them as a group or anything like that. But he's always kind of, I guess, hyping the defence up, if you like, kind of keeping them level-headed, keeping them on their toes and everything. But yeah, I mean, as I say, he does give me a heart attack a few times when he keeps hold of the ball for too long. But that's just every week as a Charlton fan. But no, other than that, I think he's been quite a good addition. I think Jones knew what was going to happen when we was bringing him in. At the same time, I do slightly feel sorry for Mannion. I have no idea what the hell's happened to him. Because there was like a slight accident or something went on with him. Obviously Ash is not getting game time really, which again I feel bad for him a little bit as well. But other than that, I mean, we've got a number one now, which I mean, compared to the last couple of years in League One, no offense to the keepers that we've had, but he's a massive step up for them.
Yeah, he is massively. I think he's been a massive welcome addition to the team. Obviously, we haven't really seen sort of heroics from him yet because they haven't really been able to penetrate our defence much. But I think that Kaminsky's a very welcome addition. I think I noticed after we conceded, I noticed he was having a go at the defence. So he clearly is communicative. He likes to command them when they make errors, so to speak, even though there wasn't really an error that cost that goal yesterday. But it shows that he is communicative. And I think that's one thing that we see. I think Mannion's exactly the same. Obviously commands his box. He's very communicative. But I think Kaminsky, I think he makes up for his distribution and his shot stopping. And obviously, Wayne Brewer, is on the bench. I believe Mannion's injured at the moment. I'm not entirely sure, but Ash is obviously covering for him while he's out injured. But yeah, Kaminsky, I'm excited to see what he can do throughout the season because I'm sure that our defence will be taking a few shots off. Will be broken down. And Kaminsky will have to face a few shots, and I'm sure he's capable of holding it out at this level. Speaking of the defence, Stephen Sid, I'm going to talk to you about the back three: Bell, Ramsey, and Jones. I think. Again, all in all, I think another solid performance from all three of them, to be honest. I felt, especially what I noticed when we had set pieces, all three of them, well, Jones and Ramsey especially, were so dominant in the air with the attacks. They were winning pretty much every header when the box come in. Obviously, Jones scoring the goal, which was disallowed and probably rightly so. But wanted to get your thoughts on that back three because at the moment, I mean, it's playing exactly as it is from last season. It's still well organised and Bell especially has slotted in rather naturally, as replacing Macaulay Gillespie since he's come in.
Yeah, outstanding yesterday, Tyler, in that respect. And it was good that you mentioned Bell there. I thought yesterday he stepped up to Lloyd Jones and Kane Ramsey level yesterday. I thought he was excellent on the ball. Did some really, really good stuff without getting into a pickle. Distribution was great. Speed was great. He worked well with the other guys. Lloyd, was his normal dominant self. There's a belief there with him. I think that he knows that he might even be destined for greater things, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's a proper championship centre half, and I think he's believing that as he plays now. Kane, gave us all a few skipped heartbeats yesterday, didn't he? He went down a couple of times, and it's always a worry. But yeah, he picked himself back up. He got a couple of whacks, and he was his normal immaculate self. I rewatched the game after we got back home last night, and those three were just as solid a unit, I think, as you can get as a back three. They may possibly be surprising a few teams, to be honest with you. I know that we had that record in League One last year, but we've made the step up, and there's probably a few sets of fans, few clubs maybe that maybe think that Charlton might be a soft touch. League One's League One, but this is the Championship. But we have really, really stepped up, and those three, I think they've probably been a catalyst for our performances in the 3 games that we've had this season in the Championship. Those guys have been the catalysts, and I think Apter mentioned it in his post-match interview yesterday that the guys at the back are rock solid, and it's the time for the forwards to sort of follow the lead, if you like, on that one. But those three yesterday, collectively and individually, I thought were outstanding.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there to talk about, sort of teams underestimating that back three. Because I know when we came up, I think especially I was like, Jones knows how to organise a defensive line, and that's what he kind of plays off. He plays off a defensive unit being well organised, and that has been proved in abundance in the first 3 games. Bell has brought in that experience. Jones and Ramsey have made the step up as we expected them to, and some more. They've been absolutely brilliant since coming into the team. And Ramsey, rightly so, again, he gave me a right scare in the first few minutes. I was like, he was down for a while as well, waiting for him to get back up. And eventually he did, took a few knocks, as you say, but he's just a warrior. And I think we've said it so many times in this podcast, how he was playing for Harrogate and no one even thought to pick him up before we did is criminal, to be honest, because I'm absolutely convinced he'll be playing at a higher level within the next few years. Hopefully with us, that'll be. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I'm about to say, if we can keep hold of Ramsey past this season, then that's an absolute miracle, because I can see Premier League clubs coming in for him this season. I can't lie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, January's going to be the killer, and hopefully in the next few weeks, people don't pay attention to his Twitter reels, and he doesn't put himself in the shop window for the next few weeks. But yeah, phenomenal player. Steve, you mentioned Actor there with his interview. That's who I'm going to give to Sid. Actually, we've touched on Edwards, but now I want to move over to the other side because I think Actor has been excellent again. You know, I'm so amazed as to what he does on that right side. At every opportunity, no matter what situation he's in, he looks to get the ball in the box. And to be quite honest with you, I was dumbfounded when he was subbed off. I was really taken aback as to why Jones made that decision. I don't know whether he looked leggy or whatever, but he certainly would not have been one of the players that I'd have taken off at the time. And we will discuss the substitutions again in a second. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Actor, you know, what impact did he have on the game yesterday and just how much has he been impressing you since coming in for the team in League One?
Yeah, I think he was great. He made those tackles, made those challenges. And then when he was running down the wing, he really impressed. And it's just showing that he's a championship player, I think, and he really does fit into our team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think defensively, you can tell that, you know, since replacing Small, he's slightly weaker in terms of the defensive aspect, but you can't knock his effort. You know, every single time when he's put in a defensive situation, he really does put himself about, which is surprising considering he is naturally a winger. But I think he's taken to that right wing back position really well. And, you know, attackingly as well, as I said, puts balls in the box, likes to cut in on the left side. I think he's going to provide a lot of goals and assists for us this season. But as I just said, I was really taken aback as to why he was subbed off. And speaking of the substitutions, that's what I'm going to give to you, Paul, because that was quite an interesting topic of debate as well. When they sort of came, the changes that were made, as we said, Actor came off, he was replaced by off the top of my head, I think it was Kelman who come on, and then obviously Carey come off for Nibs, which is like for like. Yeah. And then we saw Tanto come on. We saw Rankin Costello get a few minutes late on in the game as well in place of Doc, and then Edwards come off, and Gillespie came on as a bit of assurance at the back, so to speak, and Bell can obviously move over to the left side. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the substitutions in terms of did you think they were the right changes? You know, the players that came off and the players that came on, and what sort of impact did you think those had on the game when they did come on?
Well, I mean, I think you said you're right there where you said Nibs and Carey were sort of like for like, but Kelman and Apter certainly weren't, and that kind of mystified me. I mean, even if we talk about why the substitution Apter was made, he didn't seem to be sort of leggy for me. I mean, I think, as I say, so I was sort of quite mystified. I was glad to see Charlie get on to have his chance, but again, I'm not sure he was particularly effective. Tanto, again, was sort of tantalising, wasn't he, in what he can give us? Sorry, but no. I mean, I think he is. I mean, I think he needs to certainly start on Tuesday, and hopefully he'll have his shooting boots on. But I mean, he was. You know, again, the prospects for him are kind of endless, really. As I say, it's just yeah. And then obviously JRC again. I mean, we've got such a good squad now. I mean, keeping sort of Joe, Rankin Costello happy is going to be, among many others, is going to be an issue, isn't it? Really, because he's actually got a lot to offer. So, I mean, again, I think you know, if you're going to make your subs, you know, make them early, but make them effective. I don't really see. I couldn't really understand, you know, Charlie coming on for Rob. Really, I felt Rob was still causing chaos. He was excellent. Obviously, as you said, he stepped up to the league. He's like a duck to water. I think obviously Miles. I think was it Miles that came off. I mean, Miles, you know, put in a shift, and I thought Miles was excellent actually. When I talk about him, I'm sure up against Vestergaard, he sort of roughed up the back line, did an excellent job. But I'd certainly like to see Harvey and Tanto probably come on a bit earlier, if not start. I mean, so hopefully they'll both start on Tuesday, because they've got so much to offer. I think Tanto needs to get a decent run. They probably should have brought on Tanto at sort of 75, I think, and then he would have a decent sort of 25 half an hour run, 25-minute half an hour run at sort of tiring defence really. So again, you know, obviously bringing on subs, it's not exact science, is it really? But I was slightly puzzled, I think, certainly by the Apter one. But yeah, as I say, I would have liked to have seen Tanto come on earlier, because I can see him causing havoc. He's been called sort of the new version of sort of Chuks. Obviously, he's not as big as Chuks, but he's certainly as I think he's probably going to have as much of an effect as Chuks, and hopefully he can keep. He won't have the injury history that Chuks sadly had. But yeah, so again, I think we saw glimpses, didn't we, towards the end? But really want to see probably more game time for some of those guys.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that, especially with Tanto. I felt that game was certainly crying out for someone like Tanto to come off the bench and make an impact, certainly earlier. I think that's been a problem with Jones since he's come in. His sort of substitutions take a little bit of time to come into effect. The Apter one really took me aback, especially with how well he was linking up with Carey and the attacking threat. And obviously we moved TC to that right side, who we will talk about quite extensively in a minute. But yeah, I think the subs generally, and I think most of them had a pretty good impact on the game, to be honest. Obviously, wasn't enough to get us back level. But again, more impressive signs from what is a very solid squad for this level. And I'm very excited to see what they can do. But the likes of Tanto, Nibs, Kelman, we want to be seeing a bit more from them on the pitch, in terms of, the impact they can have and in terms of the minutes that they get. And as you said there, with Rankin Costello, keeping him happy among others is going to be an issue and a headache for Jones this season. But I think it is a good headache to have because the team has dramatically improved. Now, I want to bring everyone into this one with this debate because we've spoke about the midfield. So we're now going to move into the attack, which I think is probably the biggest talking point and the area of concern for me coming out of that game. And obviously, we did make a change. Kelman came out, Leeburn came in. We discussed that on the Wednesday's show. We talk about how many changes we wanted to make and disrupting the team. And I think Leeburn, to be honest, got a deserved start with the performances he's putting in off the bench, and he got an opportunity to play alongside TC. So, starting with you, Tom, talking generally about the front two, did you think that was the right front two to play, Leeburn and Campbell from the off? And what was your general thoughts on their performance and their link up throughout the game?
I mean, that was my front two going into the game on Wednesday anyway, because I thought, okay, Vestergaard's there, and obviously that other person who I cannot pronounce. But I just thought Lieben will be the kind of one to battle with them in the air and everything, because I didn't think Kalman could probably battle with that, if that makes sense. Obviously, I know he's a good player, but I don't think he's that type of player. I thought the first half Lieben was unbelievable, and he had so many opportunities where he could have scored. The second half, after about 65, 70, he did get a bit tired, which he did come off. But TC wise, obviously I love him to bits, but he is, you can see he's trying and he wants to do well, but it's just not coming off for him at the moment. I don't agree with the hate towards him, by the way, at all. I think he needs a bit of time to kind of get into it. It was the same last year. He wasn't great at the start of last season, and then from about November, December onwards, it was quality. But I do think he gets us up the pitch a bit with his pace. But other than that, he cannot play wing back. That I've said many times. I don't know why Jones put him there at all when he came off, but it is interesting. I do think. I mean, it looks like he has bulked up a bit, which is nice, but he does go down too easy with players as well, in my opinion, as well. But I think Tanto probably has more of a thing to maybe start over him now a little bit. As I say, I think he's a great player, and I mean, he's only 21, I think it is, so he's still getting better and better, but. I think for me, bring him on last 20-30 with his pace, defenders will be tired. This season, I think he'll be a better thing off the bench. I mean, some games he'll be good starting, but I think Tanto's kind of biting at the heels at the moment. And you even saw when he came on the last 5, Tanto made a cross instantly. I know he was offside, but he made a cross to Kelton, which he probably would have finished if it was onside. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think Jones probably will maybe play him on Tuesday to TC, but then who knows? But yeah, I think Tanto for me. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into lineups on Wednesday, but I think Tanto's kind of got a thing to start maybe over him now.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. To be honest, I think as you say, Tanto is definitely knocking on the door to get a start, but. The thing with TC, I mean, he was definitely the player that got the most stick on social media from what I saw. And I think a lot of it, well, some of it was unjustified. I think some of the stuff they've been saying about him, I think anyone that questions his work ethic, I think he's completely wrong. I think he gives 110% every time he puts on that Charlton badge. It's not as if he's not trying. And I think every time Like TC's our wild card for me this season in terms of what he can offer this team. We saw that last season. He can drive the ball forward. If it wasn't for him yesterday, we probably would have struggled to get the ball in their half, to be honest.
Yeah.
He drives the ball forward every time and he offers something different. It's just that the Championship is a completely different weapon to League One. And I think that he is one of the players at the minute that is taking a bit of time to acclimatise to the new league. End product has always been a problem with TC. I've brought it up several times on the show. It's always been an issue. He did score 7 goals last season, which is pretty good for his standard. But when you look overall across the season, he hit one purple patch right towards the end of the year, then got injured and wasn't the same player afterwards. So I think really it's just about sticking with him and just giving him the confidence. Jones clearly likes him. He's going to keep him in amongst the squad. But I think question marks do need to be raised now, especially when we've got players the likes of Tanto, the likes of Kelman, and Matty Godden to come back from injury, who I felt we were screaming out for yesterday. I think we really missed his finishing. That was the sort of game that suited Godden, in my opinion. When you've got that competition in the team, I think TC really does need to sort of up his performances. I'm not going to bash the kid because he is still young and he can still offer something. I'm not completely delusional in that sense. But it's clear that the likes of Leaburn, who has clearly taken a step up since coming back into the team, and you've got Tanto as well, they're knocking on the door and they are putting a bit of pressure on him to keep his spot, and I think it is under threat. Coming on to Stephen Sid, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Leaburn because I've been seriously impressed with how he stepped into this team, and I think he really did get a deserved start over Kelman against Leicester, and him against Vestergaard was... It was quite the battle, but also quite hilarious because they were two very different players because they're both absolute units, but they couldn't be any more different in terms of Leaburn can actually move. And Vestergaard, just watching him try and run was just hilarious trying to see him catch up. But Vestergaard was obviously that unit at the back line who Leicester can depend on, someone who can just get balls out of the box. He is Mr. Dependable in that sense. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Leaburn's performance against Leicester and just how impressed have you been? Because at the moment, if he can keep these performances up, he will feel like a new signing for us, I think.
Yeah, Leaburn's got his head in the game this season, hasn't he? I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think he's come into the season with belief. I think he's obviously moving okay. He's obviously fitness-wise, he's feeling maybe as good as he's had for a couple of years. But you can see it. He's got hunger. He's got drive. He wants to compete. And as I say, that belief in himself to get the ball, to stick his backside into the centre half, to hold the ball up, to bring others into play, I think he's doing it so well at the moment. And he's certainly leading by example in that area of the pitch. And I think both of those centre halves had their hands full with him yesterday. He sort of went from one to the other. I think if he gets that goal, it might put him on a bit of a run. I certainly think now he's probably should be the deserved starter up front now. It's just who you play with him in that respect. And Jones may or may not change that for certain opposition, certain games away from home, etc., etc. But yeah, I don't think you can fault the kid. He's when he's come on this season, he's been great. Yesterday he started and he led the line fantastically well yesterday. If he keeps on the way he's playing, I think you're going to have those suitors that are looking at him again, and that's where he was before his injuries. But yeah, as you say, but on those performances, like yesterday, I mean, he can't fail to make people sit up and notice, and good for us in that respect, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right to say there, hopefully he's not playing it just to put himself in the shop window in January. But he has been that step above. And I think you're right there. I think he is just waiting for that goal. And the second that goal comes, especially if it had come in front of the cover then yesterday, the crowd would have just been up on their feet chanting Leaburn. And, I think that will put him on a run. And I think if he can keep these performances up, he will be a serious player for us. As you rightly said, the issue we have is who we play next to him. And that's kind of what I want to give to you, Sid. And guys in the chat, feel free to give your thoughts as well. I feel like we're in a very difficult situation with our attack in terms of the perfect two to play. I think Leaburn is really playing well at the moment. Tanto's obviously knocking on the door to get in the team, as we've said. TC offers something different. Kelman is struggling a little bit, to sort of get adapted to this team, but we still need to give him time. He's adapting to a new system, and we've still got Matty Godden to come back from injury. So I wanted to kind of give you a two-part, and it's quite a difficult question, but starting things off with TC, I think a lot of people, and myself included, have questioned whether he's ready to make this step up to the Championship. So I wanted to ask you that. Do you think he is ready to make the step up, or would it be a bit too much for him? And secondly, in terms of that attacking front two, where do you think we go in terms of the perfect two that you would play for the next game, for example, on Saturday against QPR, or even on Tuesday against Cambridge?
Yeah, with Tyrese, and Tom, don't kill me here. I don't know about him, because sometimes when he doesn't do it for me. Like I'll be like, oh, small Tyrese again. But I call him small Tyrese because I feel like sometimes, like for example, in the playoff final, he just got bashed about and like thrown to the floor, and I feel like it's just too easy for him not to get through on the runs. I mean, obviously, no disrespect to the guy, because he did do some good running yesterday, but his passing wasn't great yesterday. Couldn't really make the 5-yard passes. One to Sonny Carey, I think it was, and then Sonny Carey had to go and win it and slide tackle to get it. But yeah, I don't know. I think he could possibly be the one for the jump, but then again, he might want to start on the bench and then maybe you bring him on halfway through and then see what he can do. But in terms of who I would play as the front two, I mean, Miles Leaburn has just been amazing. I think we were all questioning how he was going to react to the jump and how he was going to adapt to it. And I thought that he has been really good. So I probably play him. And then for Tuesday, I probably play Tanto with him because, as you said, Tyler, he's been knocking at the door, waiting to get his space in there. And I think that they will be a really good duo together. Obviously, Charlie Kelman, I think he is working really hard. And obviously, he's got his Instagram up back now. So yes. I think the hate's kind of stopped there if that was the case. But I would probably play those two on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think you're right there, to be honest. I think, with sort of TC, I think I said it a few times, I think he would offer perhaps something a bit better off the bench when the defences are a little bit more leggy because he can offer that difference. He is very technically, able. He can take on defences. He's good with his feet and he can make stuff happen. But I feel like that would be a lot better when the likes of Lieber and Tanto have sort of battered the defence, so to speak. And then, from there, TC can run at them when they're a bit knackered. Coming on to you, Paul, finally, sort of the same question really in terms of the attacking line. I'm not massively concerned by it just yet. However, 3 games into the season, we've scored just 1 goal and none of the attack have got that goal. And that come from a 98th minute winner from Harvey Nibbs, who currently isn't getting in the team because Carey's playing so well. So I like I said, I don't think it's too much to worry about just yet, but it was an issue that we had last season because if you really think about it, besides a few freak games last season, we didn't actually score that many goals in games. We created a few chances and I think, it was very impressive how Matty Godden was able to score as many goals as he did, with the chances and the lack of chances, as you could say, that we created, because in many games last season, we didn't actually look that menacing going forward. And obviously, we've still got him to come back. And as I said, I think a game like that against Leicester, we really missed him and missed his finishing ability, whether that be off the bench or starting. So, yeah, Paul, just to finish off about the attack debate, I wanted to get your thoughts again generally. Where do you think we go with the forward line in terms of the options that we have? And are you slightly alarmed by the fact that we haven't hit the back of the net with any of the 5 options we have at the moment?
Yeah, I'll just say, don't ask me to think too hard, Tyler. No, seriously, I think it's probably, I don't know if it's Tanto burn time doesn't trip off the tongue, does it really? But I think, going back to TC, as we say, he works very, very hard. He was getting to the byline, very late in that game. Still, he detains defenders, so he opens up space for others. But in terms of him being a striker, I think that experiment, if you can call it that, has possibly come to an end, particularly now we've gone up a league. I think I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I like my 4-4-2, big man, little man up top. So, I mean, I think certainly, not that Tanto's little exactly, but you know what I mean. He's not 6'7". So I would want to see Tanto and Miles on Tuesday with a view to them starting against QPR. As you say, I mean, well, you asked me the question, am I alarmed? No, not yet. Charlie still will get up to speed. The sniffer dog is due back, I think, in about 4 weeks. That can't come quick enough. But hopefully, as I say, Tanto and Miles would have started. Yeah, sort of Tanto tandem, can I say? Sorry. Cliche's tripping off my tongue. It's bad. But yeah, no. So as I say, hopefully, we can see them start because Miles was immense. And that was the Miles we always thought we had. And that's the Miles we had until he got his hamstring injury. I know I banged on about it last season, but he had a really serious hamstring injury. It could have been a career ender. I don't think it's being over dramatic to say that. So he needed to be nursed back again. He was getting pelted. He was being called lazy and all this stuff. He was still feeling his way back. He's a Lieber. There's going to be expectation on his name. He's got to live with that. given his father and obviously his mother was heavily involved with the club for 10 years. So yeah, as I say, it will be good first if Charlie can get up to speed. He's working hard, but he's clearly not fully fit. Understandably, didn't have a proper pre-season for obvious reasons. And then we've got Matty to come back, and that'll be. I mean, he must be licking his lips with the squad he's got to play with this time. So, as I say, I don't think we'll need to send for the Golden Cavalry, because I think by the time Matty comes back onto the grass, I think we would have started scoring goals. We're not far away, are we? Let's be honest. We had some. I mean, we talk about our defence, but Leicester threw themselves. Coley threw himself in front of a goal-bound effort.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about Connor's effort. I mean, actually, we're seeing the effect of the new balls. Not to take anything away from Connor, but I know the keepers are a bit worried that they are starting to swerve in the air, which we kind of saw. But I mean, it's all looking good. We're all set up really. I mean, I'm fully expecting QPR. I'm going to come back from a 7-1 thrashing. They're going to be up for it, obviously. They're going to have the crowd sort of baying for blood. But if we can score the first goal, I'm sure that'll turn. The crowd will turn. So yeah, I'm fully expecting us to come out on top. We'll talk about scores in a bit, but I thought it was quite a good time to play Leicester, and it was, and we were really unlucky. I mean, I think Rich Corley put a rather stark stat on his Substack. I'm glad I've not had too many siders to say that. I think we had almost three times as many touches in Leicester's box as they had in ours. I think it was 41-15. So we're going in the right direction. You said 20 shots to 6 or whatever. It's all there. We just need to just get over the hump. I'm sure it's happening. We played incredibly well. We've shown that we belong in this league already. So I think actually Saturday. Well, I'm looking obviously forward to tomorrow, but also to Saturday. I really think those of us who are going to QPR. Tom's unfortunately drawn the short straw sitting next to me. But anyway, but no, we're really looking forward to Saturday, I think. And it would be even better if we have Tanto unleashed from the off, because I think, watch out, QPR.
Yeah, I think that's spot on there, to be honest. I think as you say there, we are not a million miles away. The signs are definitely there. It's not as if that we're not creating those opportunities. As you say, Leicester's defence, the amount of shots that they blocked and the amount of chances that we created against Leicester and an ex-Premier League side was very impressive. The signs are there. We just need to, put them away, and hopefully, as you say, by the time Godden comes back, hopefully, Leeburn's got a couple to his name. Hopefully, Kelman's firing. That's what we all are hoping to see. And hopefully, Tanto's got some goals and TC starting to play well. The signs are definitely there. And it feels very good to be a Charlton fan right now with the direction that we're going in. The performances are there and it's been absolutely fantastic. Tom, is there any more points to touch upon in the chat about Leicester, or is that
well, you asked about the front two. Jack said would like to see Tanto and Leeburn next week.
Yeah.
Tommy said Leeburn and Kalman for next week, and then on Tuesday Tanto and Kalman to start.
Okay.
Rusto said, like to see Tanto and Kalman on Tuesday. People are waiting for Goddard to come back, which I think again it'll be good for him. Kelman has to start against QPR, so yeah, I mean, a lot of people are keeping Leeburn in the team for next week for sure.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that, with the performance he's putting in at the moment. So that's it for the Leicester game. So we'll move on very briefly to talk about Tuesday's game. Of course, we're back in Carabao Cup action against Cambridge United. Again, we cannot escape them at all, even after getting promoted and then getting relegated. We seem to not be able to escape the Abbey Stadium, to be honest. But yeah, we're in the second round. In theory, an easier opponent than the first round tie we got against Stevenage, but it is the Cup. Scary things can happen. And obviously, we played them in pre-season and we drew against them. So I'm still expecting a tough game. Tom, coming to you first. In terms of lineup, maybe don't run through a full 11, but what players would you like to see play? As I think we're fully expecting there to be a lot of changes.
Yeah, I think there'll be probably a full 11 change, pretty much. Maybe one or two maybe stay in the team.
Yeah.
Ash, I'd like to get a game. I know obviously Mannion had a game against Stevenage, so I think it's Ash's turn. Zach, I would like to see more of because I know he was on the bench yesterday, and I think it'll be a game tomorrow where Jones will say, okay, it's either time to loan him out or keep him around the team. Fuller is the main one for me. I want to see. I want to see Fuller start and have a full game just to kind of have fun. Because it's a cup game. It's the second round. And yeah, you just got to have fun with there. As I say, I would like to see Tanto and Kelman up front. I think that'll be one for me. I am kind of looking forward to midfield. Costello, Anderson. I think Tuesday's also a game for Nibs as well to play, to get at least like 60 in at least. But yeah, other than that, it'll be interesting to see who plays on the right side as well, and left because of Josh, obviously. So you might see Henry Ryler in there again or something like that. But yeah, other than that, not really many changes. I think Maka will probably take the captain's armband as well. But that's the only really things I can see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're expecting, wholesale changes. Maybe a few players from the game on Saturday will get another chance, but it's a good opportunity for some players to get up to speed. The likes of Kelman, who I hope will start, to be honest, and get himself a confidence boost with hopefully a goal or two. Interesting to make a point about the right side with Ryler probably coming in as well. It's typical that we loan out Nathan Asimwe to Wimbledon. He starts playing like Cafu. So it's we had a perfect opportunity there, and suddenly we just let him go. And perhaps it maybe is an opportunity for us to sign another player in that position in the come the end of the window, but we'll see. Stephen Sids, any players you're hoping to see on Tuesday, or what changes you expect?
I'm hoping that we use Nibs in every capacity on Wednesday night. The more minutes he gets, the better it's going to be for us in regards to him getting more minutes in the league situation. Like you guys, I would love to see Kelman get off the mark, not just for his confidence, but it might put him on one of those sort of roles that every striker goes through. Be good to see JRC. I'm sure we'll get a full game in that respect. Tom mentioned Mitchell there. Always great to watch Zach. He's a great kid, and it will be beneficial for him. But I hope that we seize the opportunity. I hope that the guys that want to play come in and do what they need to do to potentially keep themselves in the manager's eye. Hopefully a nice comfortable win.
And Sid, players for you?
Kind of same as Dan and Tom. With Fuller, I think that he is a young talent, and I'd love to see him possibly get a goal. But one thing is, it is quite of a shame that Alex Mitchell went on loan to Plymouth, because I feel like in the Stevenage game, he kind of was the Lloyd Jones, kind of took the role really well of the main defender in that game. So it is a shame that he's gone on loan, but I mean, it's good for him because he's getting more experience.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really touched upon Mitchell when he went to Plymouth. But I think that was a good move for him, to be honest. I felt he needed regular minutes. He don't think he was going to get that here. I don't really see Jones as thinking of him sort of favourably in terms of the team. But against Stevenage, he looked assured against that opposition. I mean, ultimately, he should be playing well against a side like that. That was the league he was playing in and playing really well in before we signed him. And I think Plymouth have got a very, very strong centre-back at their disposal who should really set the league alight, really, in that sort of system. So I'm excited to see how he does at that level. It is a shame that he has gone on loan. I mean, obviously, it leaves us a little bit light in terms of our options in the defensive line, especially with Reece Burke out injured, who we've barely touched upon, because he hasn't really made any minutes. He played 15 minutes in pre-season, I think, and then got injured. So, typical. But, we've got him to come back as well. But, good luck to Alex at Plymouth, and hopefully he does well. But, it'll be interesting to see how we line up against Cambridge. Finally, Paul, any players you'd like to see against Cambridge? Any changes?
Yeah, nothing to add really to the others. The Fuller man, I think, for sure. Zach, sort of Joe Rankin, Costello. I think you're right, actually, all of you, to say that Charlie should be starting rather than Tanto. I mean, my thought was just get Tanto and Miles together in sync before Saturday. But I think you're right. I think Charlie needs to get some minutes really, and hopefully he can score a couple of goals. That will boost his confidence. So but obviously, Ibrahim Fuller is such an exciting talent, isn't he? So every time we see him, he just seems to be the man of ball. And we obviously saw Jeremy Monga on Saturday. Just turned 16, insanely talented. But I think Ibrahim's a little bit older, but he's certainly the trajectory for him. I mean, the world's his oyster, providing he stays injury free, and hopefully he can be a Charlton player for many years to come. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's amazing how these young players can just crop up out of nowhere and suddenly just start playing well and get into the team. And that's exactly what Fuller's done. I mean, I've been really impressed by Fuller in pre-season and against Stevenage. He looked natural. against a League One opposition. He's only 18, so I'm really excited to see what he can do. Kelman's the main one for me. I really want to see him get a start and have the crowd behind his back, and if he can get a goal or two, that will spur him on. The confidence will be there now that he's got one or two hopefully under his belt, and then he can go and smash it in the league. Karoy is another one I want to see, because I think he really controlled that midfield against Stevenage, and I think it's a great opportunity for him to put himself in the window to get in that team. And the same with Rankin Costello as well. And we touched upon Zach Mitchell as well. He's again an exciting centre back as well, and hopefully Ash can have a good game as well between the six. I expect him to play. We will end with our score predictions against Cambridge. So guys, be sure to get your score predictions in the chat. Do you think we're going to win? Do you think we're going to draw, go to penalties, God forbid, or do you think we're bowing out in the second round? I don't think many people are too bothered if we do, to be honest, because it is the Carabao Cup, and as Charlton, as we know, we are focused on the League FC. But we'll see how it goes. Starting off with Tom, score prediction for Cambridge.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost, because obviously last time in the Championship we lost to probably Forest Green. So who knows? But I do think we will go through this round. I think there'll be a few first teamers on the bench. We'll probably struggle a little bit in the game. I mean, it's Cambridge. We always do there. But I can see a 3-0. Goal scorers. Kelman will get off the mark. I think this is his game to kind of get his confidence up. Nibs will get one. And I think I'll go for a Maka header from a corner. Why not? And then hopefully, if we do win next round, we get a big team away. That'd be nice.
I think that's exactly what we're calling for. We don't want to see another League Two or League One opposition, do we? We want a nice little tie. I think after the third round, it's no longer regional ties now. I think it's after that, it's the rest of the.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Steve, score prediction and scorers.
I was going to go 3-0. Tom stole my thunder there. Yeah, let's go for a nice, safe, solid 2-0 then. Yeah. Nice. Nibs and Kelman, please.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Sid, scorers and score prediction.
I was going to go 3-0 as well, so I'm just going to go. But I'm going to go for JRC 1. Who else? Yeah, I think Charlie, and we're going to go for maybe a little Zach Mitchell.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good
nice for him, yeah.
And JRC as well. It'd be nice to see him get off the mark, especially Kelman as well. Paul, score prediction, scorers.
Yeah, well, 3-0 was my inclination. I'm going to stick with that. But different scorers, 2 for Charlie. And hopefully it's been kind to Ibi Fuller. So I think Ibrahim Fuller again to score 3-0.
Do I be different, or do I go with the same vein? You left me in a difficult position. Yeah. Knowing Cambridge, I think they probably will nick one against us, But I'll stick with the theme of 3. I'll go with the same result against Stevenage. I think we nick it 3-1. I think we should really go through to the next round against an opposition like that, with all due respect to Cambridge, but they will make it tough as they always do. Scorers, Kelman for me. I'd love to see him get off the score sheet. I think he needs to, really, and hopefully this will be a great opportunity for him, and he can get himself the confidence boost that he needs. And then I'm going to go Fuller, and I like the Rankin Costello back in as well. I back him to get a goal as well from midfield. We had Berry scoring midfield in the against Stevenage. So hopefully we get something like that again. So I'm going 3-1. Tom, for the chat, any score predictions in there?
Roster said 4-0. Kelman, Tanto, and Nibs were 2. Tommy said 2-0 Charlton, Kelman and Tanto. Jack said 1-0 Tanto. Lionel said 2-0 Kelman and Tanto. Emma's in the chat. She said 3-0 Tanto hat-trick, Tango Tanto time. Glenny Boy said 4-0 as well. Kelman 2, Nibs 2. And that is, I think, that is it.
Yeah, that would be the dream, that for them to get braces, especially Nibs against his former side and Kelman to get the confidence boost. But I think generally, hopefully, we're just hoping for a commanding performance, a good display, and hopefully into the next round of the Carabao Cup. Right, I believe that is where we're going to end it. We've done well to get it over an hour, and hopefully this has been hopefully a decent stream under my command. Hopefully I've not made too many errors or balls ups or something, but yeah, it is a one-off. If you guys do want me to come back and do one, I might potentially do one. It depends on the demand, but Emma is very good now. But yeah, it's been a privilege to host this show tonight. As I said, hopefully not done a bad job, but I thought that went as smooth as it could possibly have gone. Thanks you. Cheers, Steve. Thanks everyone for watching again and keep being, talkative in the chat as well. Nice to get you guys involved and talking about all the topics. As I said, it is very good to be a Charlton fan right now. Very proud of the team at the moment, and hopefully we can get some more goals in the back of the net and we can keep putting in the performances that the fans are very proud of. Big thanks to Paul, Steve, Sid, and Tom as ever for joining us on the stream and giving us all your wonderful opinions and insights. And hopefully many more good streams to come for the rest of the season. Thank you guys all for tuning in.
Wait, I was about to say, I just saw that.
I've just seen a super chat come flying in. That is,
we've got a £10 super chat from Lionel. Great job tonight, guys. Well covered, Tyler. And then everyone's praising Tyler in the chat as well.
Thank you very much, guys. And cheers for the 10. That does go into Josh's pocket, so we will have to distribute that amongst ourselves there. He's pocketed that straight away. But appreciate that. But that's where we're going to end it. Thank you all again for joining the stream. Thanks, guys, for keeping me company. And we will see you all on Wednesday for our debrief of Cambridge, where hopefully we've smashed them and we're in the third round. And we'll look ahead to QPR, first London derby of the season. And hopefully we can thump them just like Coventry did 7-1. So maybe a bit wishful thinking, but we can all dream. Thanks again for joining us again, and we will see you all next time. Take care, guys.
See you in a bit, people.
Thanks all.